Liars is one of the most iconic teen television shows of all time. It featured 4 high school bullies, Aria Montgomery, Emily Fields, Hannah Marin, and Spencer Hastings being tormented by an anonymous villain who went by the alias A as they worked tirelessly to solve the disappearance of their group's queen bee, Alison DiLaurentis. There was a lot of discourse when the show was airing around both characters of Alison and Aria, a lot of speculation that one or both of them was behind the vicious torment subjected to the liars. Alison's body had been found at the end of the pilot. Her bracelet and infamous yellow top had been discovered on her body, DNA matched. All the signs pointed to Alison being dead, except 2 little tiny details. One, whoever their stalker was knew details about them they only ever shared with Alison. And 2, Alison had visited each of the girls after they attended her funeral. Was she alive? Were they hallucinating? Each of them, though, that seemed pretty far-fetched. Fans loved accusing Aria of being the evil, black hoodie-wearing stalker, the whimsical artist of the group who had been groomed by her English teacher, a man who was also involved with Alison before her disappearance. The writers made her so suspicious that Lucy Hale herself, the actress who played Aria, thought that she'd eventually be revealed as A. Hey guys, my name is Nathania Ray, also known as Scream Chat here on YouTube. I love coming up with alternate endings for stories that I feel like deserved better, so if that's your jam, go ahead and subscribe. I already have a full playlist of Pretty Little Liars videos, and I will be uploading more content as well. I have a Euphoria video coming, some Vampire Diaries videos coming, and so much more. So subscribe if you are interested in that, and let's get back to the video. So for this video, we will first review all of the clues hinting to Aria and Alison being A individually, and then we will work through the rewritten ending or the Ray-written ending and put it all together to make it fit seamlessly and make sense. Aria was the first amongst all of the liars to be introduced post Alison's disappearance. We learned that she had been away in Europe with her family after discovering her father was having an affair with one of his college students. She was set up as the lead of the ensemble, getting the first A message, and being the only one with somewhat positive flashbacks of Alison. Yes, I know that Alison ends up bullying Aria into telling Ella about Byron's affair at the end of this scene, but let's look at the beginning of the scene where Aria and Alison are kind of bullying Mona together. Whereas in the flashbacks with all the other liars, they all seem uncomfortable when Allie is bullying other people. Aria's the only one who kind of seemed like she joined in on the fun. Hannah would even try to stick up for other people like Lucas when Alison would call him Hermie. Obviously, Alison shut it down immediately. But Aria was never seeming to be uncomfortable. If anything, they were buddy-buddy about bullying Mona together. And you would think that Mona would be probably the most harsh with Aria because of this, but no, she's the most lenient with her, just like every other rendition of A. But we'll get to the favoritism in a minute. What if getting her first text in front of witnesses while all the other girls were alone, the favoritism from their stalker, always disappearing without an explanation, the handwriting on the Halloween train, the shh from Lucy Hale in the opening sequence, Mona calling her Big A in the hallway at school, the constant phone swaps and mirror shots all actually meant something? What if Aria and Alison teamed up as A? There's no debate on who got the least brutality from A. Fans everywhere can agree that's not even just one rendition of the 3 or 2. It's all 3 of them treated Aria the fairest. Mona literally ran Spencer to a mental institution. Cece drove a car through Emily's house. Hannah was kidnapped by Alex and poked with cattle prods repeatedly. Hello? What did Aria get? A haircut? Oh, she did get stapled to the wall, I think, one time. Yeah. So I'm getting footage right now during the editing process, and I just want to say that even in this instance where Aria is being stapled to the wall, she's fully convinced it is Alison. She looks at this person in the mask and flat out says, Alison, please do not do this to me. So Aria was literally handed a plagiarized essay to get rid of Ezra's ex so she could continue on their relationship without a hitch. Meanwhile, Spencer's relationship with Alex got sabotaged. Emily's relationship with Samara had to end. Mona even tried her best to make sure Caleb got the boot, even though that wasn't successful. She still tried. She did also almost get poked in the eye that one time when she was spying at the DiLaurentis house, but Cece couldn't have known who that was. She just knew somebody was poking around, so, well, can't really say that was specifically towards Aria, can we? Her mama's car was filled with the bees that one time she decided to leave her daughter and go to Europe. I know Aria was very conflicted about that, so it's easy to say that she could have been the one who did it. It's like most of the things that A did to Aria more so impacted other people, like the people in her life, her parents primarily, more than it did to her. Her parents' affair, her mother going to Europe, her brother shoplifting and breaking into people's houses. These were all things that was used against her, but it's not really about her. These were also things that Aria was heavily conflicted on, and it could even be argued that A was kind of standing up for Aria in a weird and sick, twisted way. Or she was standing up for herself, taking control of the circumstances around her. And you may be thinking, Nathania, honey, Aria was literally shoved into a box with a dead body. So what are you talking about? Well, and I would say that wasn't A. That was Melissa and Wilden, who were a part of like the B team at this point, which was essentially folks being blackmailed by A, trying to figure out who A was, just like the liars were, and stop everything A was doing. Remember, Cece was A at this time. Wilden and Cece were not in cahoots. Melissa and Cece were not in cahoots. Cece was blackmailing both of them, so they were not a part of the A team. They did this to Aria for their own reasons, and it had nothing to do with A, and she was not in control in that situation. I will ask though, why would they want to put Aria in the box? Could they have been suspicious of her? It feels like the favoritism gave Aria a certain freedom that the other girls just didn't have. Aria could afford to spend the afternoon with her feet propped up on Ezra's couch, while Emily was desperately scrambling to figure out who put steroids in all of her lotions, or Hannah was trying to get Wilden's swampy car out of her garage. They'd be in the middle of trying to solve the mystery in complete chaos mode, and Aria would always have some mediocre and irrelevant tasks to go off and do instead of helping. Maybe she was sneaking off to plot their demise with Alison. Mona even called Aria Big A. Like, come on, how more on the nose can you get? Now, I already talked about this in my Aria is A theory video. If you have not checked it out already, go ahead. It's that's my most popular video on the channel right now, so when the show was airing, there was some speculation amongst fans that Aria may have something called dissociative identity disorder, which is a condition that some people develop as a result of severe childhood trauma. Essentially, their brain creates different alters to cope and navigate their everyday lives, bringing whatever alter forward fits their current circumstances. So in this situation, the concept or the idea would be that whenever Aria was feeling triggered, her A alter would come forward, threaten the girls, or schedule threatening text messages to the girls, or whatever the case may be, set up board games and all these things. And then when she started to feel safe again, her Aria alter would resurface. It could have been a coping mechanism for her losing Alison, or maybe some other unforeseen motive. This would explain why Eddie Lamb may have recognized her, even if Aria wasn't an inpatient. If she had a condition like that, it would be realistic for her to have a psychiatrist or a psychologist that she would be regularly visiting. It could have been a doctor that was at Radley. Aria was also the only one of all the liars to have all these vivid hallucinations throughout the show. We get the scene where Aria imagined Ezra getting arrested. Other than Spencer's like drug noir episode, we really don't get any scenes like that with the other girls. So that could have been a clue to Aria's mental health not being as good or strong or neurotypical as we may have thought it to be. It's also established in season 1 that there is a history of mental health issues in Aria's family. Her uncle, I don't know if it was depression that he had or if it was another mental disorder, but Byron did talk about this a couple of times with Ella in terms of how they wanted to proceed with Mike's depression. And also, her brother Mike was depressed severely. He was also going through something so bad that he had to be breaking into people's houses and stealing things. So there is a history there as well. I do think though it would have been brilliant in hindsight to watch Ella and Byron constantly fighting over how to help Mike's mental health, and Aria completely falling through the cracks, them not even realizing like, yeah, that girl for sure, she needs help. It's like intentional misdirection, but we know Marlene King, she wasn't really on that type of timing. I do think she did actually kind of eat with Cece. She revealed Cece in the black hoodie way earlier than her reveal. But of course, you're looking at that like, huh? Is that the reveal? That's a little anticlimactic. And you're thinking maybe she's just a minion. She's probably just on the A team. And then boom, she's A. So I do kind of give her credit when it's due. That did kind of eat. You got me. I do want to say that having this disorder does not qualify as a motive. At least to me it doesn't. I can't speak for Marlene King considering, you know, what we ended up getting, but there are people who live with this every single day that don't stalk, torment, or, you know, victimize people in their lives. Mental health is not a motive, guys. Let's keep that in mind. With all that being said, dissociative identity disorder is not the route I would have taken Aria's character had I revealed her to be A. I feel like using mental health as a horror trope is overall lazy and insensitive. But before we get to how I would have revealed Aria, let's talk about the hints and clues that Alison had been A all along. There were many clues throughout the first season that Alison intentionally faked her death. It was a pretty popular theory due to the flashbacks in which Allie would say things like how amazing it would be to leave behind a young, beautiful corpse, essentially granting her immortality. In this timeline, we'll say that Alison lured Bethany Young to Rosewood with the intention of killing her and using her body to fake her death. Personally, I think this makes a lot more sense than Mona and Cece both hit the wrong person over the head at the exact same spot in the exact same night. Instead, we're going to say that Alison sent that letter to Bethany, the one that we found in the Christmas episode. I think Hannah found it when she snuck into the DiLaurentis house. It's a letter from Bethany thanking Alison for sending her the yellow top and being so excited that she's going to spend Labor Day weekend with Alison. So Alison lured her to town with the same yellow top she planned on wearing that night, and then she hit her over the head with the shovel she had just taken from Spencer. Now, after she hit Bethany over the head, she takes her own bracelet off her wrist, puts it on Bethany's unconscious body, and then she hears rustling around, or she hears something. So she goes to hide. Melissa pops up. Melissa sees the body, thinks it was Spencer, buries the body, and moves on. Now, Alison faked her death, and she's got blackmail on Melissa now. We know that Alison was blackmailing everybody and their daddy, trying to rack up some cash right before she went missing. Was she trying to get money for an abortion for Milden's baby? I don't think so. It seemed like that was a scare. So what could the money have been for? Could it have been to run away? It seems like that was her plan all along. She wanted to investigate A behind the scenes and possibly get a hold of the NAT club, eliminating them. If you guys have not seen that video, I'm quite proud of it, where I talk about Alison and the plot that we could have had with the NAT club, her hacking off those members one by one. Yeah, if y'all haven't seen that, check it out. It could have been interesting to explore Alison coming back and seeing all the liars and being pissed off that they were not really super sad anymore about her death. Like, That's how quick you bitches get over the best thing that ever happened to you? Huh. Let's see about that. Spencer was still kissing Melissa's boyfriends. Aria was hooking up with the guy Alison was just hooking up with. Hefty Hannah was Queen Bee with loser Mona. And Emily found a new love interest in the girl that moved into Alison's bedroom. Yeah, they had to go. Now, while I would keep Mona as A for seasons 1 and 2, I would have Alison had sneak some A texts in there. So, for example, I would have Alison be the one who was texting Melissa from Ian's phone. That whole plot line of Ian and Melissa and the barn, the text messages, the horseshoe. Check out that video with the NAT Club to see kind of how I would have had that work out. This video does kind of coincide with that one. Like, any Alison is A theory will always coincide with that NAT Club because I just feel like it makes so much sense. So all of the text messages that Alison had sent to the girls would make up the suicide note that Ian had left behind, and that would be a clue for the girls, basically saying like, hey bitches, I'm still alive, what's good? I also think this could have been interesting to explore that maybe this was around the time Alison had gotten attacked by Cyrus, because remember, he robbed her, took all of her money, and she was broke now. So she could have been the one who ended up with the whole situation pawning Spencer's ring because she needed that money. Speaking of Ian and the NAT Club, we might as well touch on all of the murders that happened during Alison's missing in action era. In a nutshell, Alison hated every single member of the NAT Club. Ian tricked her into thinking he actually liked her and cared about her. Melissa stood between them and was sending Alison threatening texts. Jason was a creep who let his friends groom and film her. Blinding Jenna wasn't even enough to get that girl to stop annoying Alison. And now she had a little lapdog doing the swinging for her. It made sense for season 1 Alison to come up with a plan to fake her death, destroy A, obliterate the NAT Club, and then figure out a way to rise from the ashes later on. Alison knocked Ian off the bell tower. How did she know he was there if she hadn't been stalking either Ian or the liars? Then Garrett was killed on the Halloween train. Wilden gets blamed for this, but there's no proof that Alison wasn't on that train hacking people up. She could have overheard him telling Spencer about extorting Aria's dad, and at that point, Alison would have been having too much fun cosplaying as A and getting away with murder. She'd have tasted the power and would not be ready to let it go. This would prompt her to think fast and kill Garrett before Wilden and Melissa come in with an unconscious Aria and shove her in the crate. She attacked Jenna multiple times, but I feel like at that point, Alison just accepted, like, okay, this bitch is refusing to die, so I'm gonna just leave her alone. I already blinded the bitch, whatever. Now, Maya, on the other hand, will not be so lucky. The whole Lyndon James situation could have been a fake out. He could have blamed Emily for Maya's death and figured if Maya hadn't come back to Emily, or if Maya hadn't been in love with Emily, maybe she would have stayed with him and he could have protected her and she wouldn't have been dead. I think it makes more sense, or not makes more sense, but it could be really fun to have it be like that, where Emily assumed that because he wanted to take out her and Paige, that he was responsible for Maya. But in hindsight, looking back at it, he would never have actually said that or admitted to it. He would have just been very angry at Emily and wanted to take it out on Paige. Basically, it would be the same thing as what we had with Ian and Spencer at the end of season 1. We all assumed that he was the one who took out Alison because of the way he was talking to Spencer. He tried to make her take the blame for it. We didn't know, and she didn't realize that he thought Spencer did it because of what Melissa had told him. So now it's like all of this confusion and nobody's communicating. It would be like that with Lyndon James. He would basically blame Emily for Maya's death, not really understanding what happened or, what caused it, but he would just blame her. And because of the way he approached everything and attacked her, Emily would assume, like, yeah, this man is crazy. He took Maya out, the bastard. What I would have had happen to Maya, though, is she was at Noel Khan's cabin. Noel Kahn knew Alison was alive. It's real possibility that Alison had gone to Noel Kahn's cabin to lay low after the masquerade ball and happened to run into Maya there. And there, obviously, Maya's seeing Alison and is like, and Alison is looking at Maya like, so then, of course, the two are gonna get into a scuffle. Alison would win and take out Maya, and that's where that whole situation would go. Now imagine if Miss Aria, you're a killer, not Ezra's wife, turned into Maya New, and they were both clues. Miss Aria, you're a killer, not Ezra's wife, because she's involved in the unaliving of the NAT club, and she is a killer, basically, an accomplice at least, and then, or she will be eventually after Shauna comes up, we'll get there, and Maya knew Alison was alive, and then she had to go. Even Wilden ended up dead, and it's Cece in canon, but why? Because he wouldn't let Alison come back? Okay, well then you might as well let Alison unalive him. Cause who's gonna stop me, boo? You? No. It could even be argued that Aria and Alison worked together to kill Shauna when they discovered that she turned for Jenna. In canon, I think this is the beginning of Alison's redemption arc. She got to really see how easily someone could turn against her because of the way she treated them. And you can see the like shock in her face when she asked Shauna, like, how did she turn you against me? And Shauna's like, you did it, baby. So I do think that that was a very good way to introduce Alison's redemption arc. I will say that, but I just feel like the character herself did not need a redemption arc, and the writers fumbled it. So we can scrap that part. Instead of having Alison, go the redemption way, I would have her tighten up ship even more. Like, you bitches is not gonna get a chance to loosen up on me. Now, at this point, Alison is so heated on the whole turncloak thing that her and Aria are like, yeah, no, this bitch gotta go. She's got to go, like, actually to hell. Alison appeared to each of the liars before she was revealed to be alive. She joked with Hannah that what happened to her was complicated, but insisted that each of the liars had a piece of the puzzle, and if they put the pieces together, they'd discover the truth. This made no sense. The liars hadn't even met Cece at this point, so how could they have put it together that Cece hit her over the head, her mama buried her alive, and Mona helped her escape in exchange for her hair appointments? Maybe Hannah could have pieced together the last part, but definitely not the full picture. Alison also said that telling the truth to the wrong person was how she ended up where she was in the first place. But how is that true? Granted, Allie followed that statement up by saying, you're always better with a really good lie. I guess that's her saying, don't trust anything I say because I'm a liar. Which I guess can help us understand why she told Emily that she knew exactly who A was when she rescued her from the barn. At this point, Alison had no idea that Mona was A. If she did, she would have destroyed Mona. She was never scared of Mona. Even when she came back and knew Mona was A, she still wasn't scared of her. But when Emily asked Allie why she couldn't tell her who A was, and Allie looked at that girl and said, because baby, two can keep a secret only if one of them is dead. She ate with that lie. Imagine if she was A that whole time and was like, baby, I could tell you who A is, but then I'm going to have to kill you, and I don't want to kill you, my love. That would have been so good. So good. Like, literally so good. In hindsight, rewatching the show and seeing that scene, like, yeah, baby, you ate that. They did not, in fact, eat it, though, in reality. And Aria's scene with Alison also still kind of works, even with this theory. Aria confronts Allie about blackmailing her dad, and Allie is genuinely apologetic about it, saying she really just needed that money. She never really was going to tell Aria's mom, but she was desperate. Alison took the diary pages from Aria's hiding spot without really having to look around very much. As soon as she saw the doll, she knew, yeah, this is where it is. One thing that I find interesting about this is that Alison admits to seeing A everywhere she goes, but she also said she sees everything now. At this point, Cece is A. So when you say you see A everywhere you go, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Because Cece didn't even know Alison was alive at this point. So what do you mean by that, Alison? Oh, you're just lying again. Oh, okay. All right. And when she says, I see everything now, that's just such an A thing to say. It's weird. She talks about how she's surprised Spencer hadn't figured out that Cece was A yet, but why would Spencer be suspecting the random store shop worker that looks and talks like Alison of being their stalker? Why would she? But when you look back at all of these incidents of Alison returning to the liars and just talking to them, under the notion of Allie being the one who took over the game from Mona after season 2 finale, it just makes so much more sense. In canon, though, the only way to make these scenes make any sense is to just tell yourself Alison can't be trusted. Nothing that comes out of that girl's mouth is the truth. She just says whatever, which is a fair analysis to make because she does say it quite often. Even with her scenes with Ezra, she points out very often she's a liar. He even says it in his manuscript. The very first line of his manuscript is, what was it? Lying was like oxygen for her. Yeah, it was. Truly, indeed. The Allie masks are still an anomaly in the season 4 timeline. In canon, we learned that Allie had these masks made so that her friends could look like her, yet the only people we ever see wearing these masks are members of the A-team. So who'd she have them made for again? After finding the mask and Alison's stuff, the liars tracked Hector down, the one who made the mask. Melissa and Emily both wound up modeling for their own masks in exchange for information. While Melissa was smart enough to destroy hers, Emily's mask ended up being used against her when she tried anonymously to go to the police about A. Who, child? So how did A get Emily's mask? Anyway, we literally never found out why Allie had these masks made, who the friends were that she planned on giving it to, or literally anything substantial with the masks. It just kind of gets dropped. The girls never even bring it up when Alison comes back to life, or in her like in the theater episode where they're asking her a bunch of questions. It never gets brought up again. The entire storyline went cold until season 7 when they brought back in those Mission Impossible masks. That was embarrassing. And it's even more embarrassing when you consider that they were so proud of those Mission Impossible masks that they brought it back for Original Sin. Although I will admit, the spinoff did it better. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it for those of you who have never seen it. I would say if you like horror movies and you like Pretty Little Liars, give it a try. Even if you don't like Original Sin, you might like Summer School. I liked Summer School way better than Original Sin. Now, having seen Original Sin and Summer School, I can sit back and enjoy Original Sin a little bit more. But of the 2 seasons we got, I would definitely say I favor Summer School. Both Alison and A love to play games. Whenever the liars did something that would seemingly annoy Alison, A's rules revved up on them. For instance, when Spencer said she was done treating Alison like some sort of martyr rather than the bitch that she was, that was when things went left with her and Toby. A threatened him and put him in the hospital, forcing Spencer to end the relationship to protect him. This feeling of betrayal, thinking Spencer had cheated on him with Ren, was what drove Toby to be on the A-team in the first place. When she wanted to show the girls that she was alive, she had them running around Ravenswood for 2 episodes. It could be argued that she was trying to expose Ezra, but she didn't. Then, after all the dramatics and the hoopla, they still ended up right outside Spencer's barn, and Ezra found them Anyway, after coming back for good, Alison demanded all of Ezra's research that he collected for his book. In canon, they thought that A was Shauna, and Shauna was pushed off the stage bleeding out. So why would A need this? Could it be to cover up all of her crimes and see how much of it Ezra knew about? Maybe even destroy all the evidence of her possibly being linked to A. A lot of the texts that Alison got from A in season 5 were kind of like the texts that Mona got at the end of season 2, in the sense of she mostly got them in front of the other liars, or it was about them. Alison was also sneaking around town a bunch in the middle of the night after she had came back home. Why? There were multiple instances of us being with other characters at nighttime in the city or in like town, and they'd see Alison and they're like, huh? Like, I think it was even an episode where Peter came across her and was like, yeah, I'm gonna drive you home because I don't think you should be out here in the middle of the night like this, honey. No. So what was Alison doing? Because we never got any answer to this. We see the scene where I don't remember if Mona had lured her into the church or if Mona followed her into the church or what the case may be, but we got that episode of Mona and Alison and the church. But all the other times, why was Allie just roaming around the town? Spencer even caught her lurking around the backyard in a black hoodie on the camera. Maybe she'd been plotting. At the end of season 5, Alison had been convicted of Mona's murder. Instead, I would have had Alison frame Melissa for Bethany's murder. I'd also scrap the whole Alison coming back from the dead because she would be enjoying her power of anonymity way too much. That power would be how she was able to get a hold of Melissa's confession tape in the first place. So why would she give that up by coming back from the dead? Instead of having the girl stolen from a police van, I would do something similar to the lodge fire. I think it would have been a really interesting reveal if it was shown that the girls were supposed to be kidnapped the night of the lodge fire, and Shauna foiled their plan by setting it ablaze. This could have also been a really good way to incorporate Sarah Harvey's character. She and Alison both had that same mean girl archetype and disappeared around the same time, so they could have met that weekend, became friends. Alison could have recruited Sarah to help her enact her revenge on the NAT club and on her fake-ass friends. So, yeah, they could have been at the lodge at the time trying to kidnap the girls, and when Shauna set the fire, now Sarah Harvey gets burned because one of those A's got burned in the mass. That would be Sarah Harvey, and she's going to be the one who pulls Alison back, and they decide to try again another time. So over the course of the Dollhouse, I would have it be 10 episodes rather than 2. I'd have the girls be put through various tests and torments, similar to what was done in canon. Aria will be excluded from the tests where the girls were alone, but she would participate in the group activities, of course, as to not look suspicious. Would I have Mona be in the Dollhouse at this time? I don't think so. I feel like I would have just had Alison have the 4 girls in the Dollhouse, and Mona could have been maybe crucial in helping to find the liars. We can say that. But the vault that, the Charles vault, it would instead be a shrine to Alison, made by Alison, because who's a more narcissistic person than this girl? Spencer would think of it as just another regular A layer. They're all pretty much obsessed with Alison. Even the liars are obsessed with Alison, even though they kind of are forced to be at this point. They don't really have a choice. They've been thinking about this girl every single day of their lives for the past at least 2-3 years. So for the final Dollhouse episode, I would actually keep the prom concept. I would also keep Spencer coming up with a plan to escape. During the execution of this plan, the girls would essentially jump A, revealing Alison to be alive behind the mask and the black hoodie. This would be the reveal for both the liars and the audience, so it would be a huge struggle, and the girls would obviously be pleading for answers. Like, girl, why did you do this to us? Why have you been tormenting us, your friends, who have been trying to avenge you and figure out what happened to you for years? Why would you do this? Alison would ominously shrug them off, as she does, and she'd say something along the lines of, "It's immortality, my darlings." Like, she really just does not care. She's just in it for the love of the game. Hannah would punch the crap out of Alison at this point, probably knocking loose a couple of teeth. Aria and Emily would have to try their absolute hardest to pry Hannah off of Alison, while Spencer is just standing there shocked and in disbelief. The liars would tie Alison up to a chair or whatever they could get a hold of and try to get as many answers from her as possible. She would be very vague, very ominous, speaking in riddles as she always did whenever she came back to speak to the girls. But after a few questions, all of the lights would go out. The entire dollhouse would be completely pitch black, and by the time the lights cut back on, Alison would be gone. This would essentially replace the theater episode where they were all asking her questions and she was explaining everything that had happened in regards to the night that she disappeared and all that. So it would be a full episode of them pretty much interrogating Alison and trying to get answers. And she would give them some answers, but she would be very vague. She wouldn't admit to her crimes. She would just admit the very simple stuff that they probably could have figured out on their own. So we would still not have a lot of answers here. Keep in mind, we already established Alison is a liar. We can't trust anything she says anyway, so Hannah would be fuming with fury, pacing and ranting about all the ways she would tear Alison apart. Emily would be just crying hysterically, devastated at what they've just learned. Spencer would be in shock, unable to even process what was happening. Aria would be asking aloud all the questions that the audience has. If Alison was alive, whose funeral did they go to? Where had she been all this time? Who helped her escape? Was Alison and her accomplice still somewhere in the dollhouse, or had they gotten away? Just like in canon, I would have a rescue team working on getting the girls back. But of course, by the time they are found and those doors swing open, Alison and her accomplice would be gone. They wouldn't say anything to the police the same way they didn't say anything about Charles DiLaurentis. And I would have Mona be the one who's arrested for this, the same way that Andrew Campbell was arrested. So Allie had been laying all the foundation for Mona to take the fall before anyone was ever found. And now that they have been found, Mona gets arrested. Now, Hannah would obviously be like, no, we need to make it clear that Mona was not the one responsible for this. But Spencer and Aria would remind Hannah that they need proof of Alison being alive, and the police probably wouldn't believe them anyway because they'd lied so much. But eventually, days would go by, even weeks and months would pass, and there would be no word from A or Alison. The police would have to release Mona due to lack of evidence. Eventually, years would go by and the girls would go off to college and start their lives without having heard a peep from their friend turned stalker. If you've made it this far, I think it's safe to say we are internet friends now. Go ahead and subscribe if you have not already. I like the idea of Alison surviving the dollhouse and being on the run in the time jump. It just creates this feeling of unease for the girls because although the stalking was ended when the girls left the dollhouse, they'll never really trust it's over, and they shouldn't. After the time jump, Emily, Hannah, and Spencer are lured back to Rosewood with a photo of Aria sitting in the brew with a knife in the camera. Along with the picture would be a message, and the message would say, "I've come to collect my favorite doll. Come and find us. -A." Obviously, the liars would come running to save Aria, but they just end up trapped when they discover that Alison's body was found at the bottom of the bell tower, same as how Ian's had been all of those years ago. They would be asked by police not to leave town, and when they start to discuss the A text and where Aria might be, another text would come in, and it would say, "Want to find your favorite doll? You've got 24 hours to bring me Allie's killer, or I'll smash her to bits. Follow the yellow brick road, bitches. -AD." Yeah, so we've got our first text from AD now. Spencer would decipher this to mean they need to go to Radley, which would still be a converted hotel. I actually really like the idea of that renovation. It gives the town this eerie feeling. I don't know, I can't explain it. It's like this eerie history with this large shadow of what Radley used to be looming over the town. And there's just something about that I really like. It's really creepy and cool. Essentially, the girls would have to go through a series of unfortunate events trying to unravel Allie's killer, which they will fail to do. And as a result for this, the board game would be delivered to Spencer's barn. By the finale, the girls would be so worn out at this point. Days having passed with no word from Aria, Hannah would declare that she's probably dead and they're next. Emily would insist that she shouldn't be so negative, and Spencer at this point would just feel so defeated and overwhelmed. At this point, we'll have Mona chiming in, kind of like how she did in canon. I would also keep Mona as the killer here. In canon, she killed Cece. In this timeline, she killed Alison. It makes sense that she would have been the one to track Allie down, lure her back to town, and kill her during the confrontation. Alison ruined her life. She destroyed her so badly that Mona became A just to cope with the torment that Alison put on her. Then Allie took the A game away from her too. Then she tried to send her to jail for the dollhouse. In Mona's eyes, Alison was responsible for everything that went wrong in her life. And the bitch couldn't even apologize for it. Instead, Alison would talk about how all this had just inspired her to re-up the A game. And that was enough to get Mona to snap and kill her. Now, upon this revelation, I would keep the whole situation with the whole Two Crows diner. I think that was actually really good, really suspenseful. You don't know who the brunette is with the cheesy keychain or whatever. I like that storyline. Aria being taken in for questioning about it. I think it was all pretty good. Obviously, Aria would not be the one taken into questioning because she's missing right now. So upon the reveal that Mona was the one who took out Alison, Spencer's phone would ring. And it would be Aria. And she'd be sounding very normal, and the liars would be very confused. Like, Aria, are you okay? What's been going on? Like, what happened to you? Who took you? Da, da, da. And Aria would be very confused, and she would say, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I was out of town on a sabbatical with my publishing company. What's going on with you guys? And they would tell her what's happening, and she would of course say, I'm rushing to Rosewood right away. I'm a day away at least, though. I'm coming as soon as I can. That night, Hannah would insist on going to Mona's apartment to check on her. Spencer and Emily would say, absolutely not. You're not going alone. We're coming with you. They'd push open the ajar back door and find Aria hovering over a dead Mona. This is when we would get the final reveal and epic monologue. Aria would explain that Alison contacted her after the lodge fire. Alison picked Aria because she was different from everyone else, but not different from Allie. She had that same darkness inside of her, and Allie knew it from the moment they met. That's why she knew she could trust Aria to spy on the other liars for her, feeding Allie or A information in exchange for safety from A and majority of the torment, as well as preserving her relationship with Ezra. When Spencer demanded to know why Aria had betrayed them and Hannah declared the betrayal worse than Allie's, all Aria could reply with was, sometimes the villains win. She'd try to escape with her black hoodie, but Aria would be overpowered by her 3 ex-best friends. I think it could have been really interesting too to have this episode or the series finale be similar to the season 4 premiere, where we had Mona share her inner thoughts. It would have been really cool to have the liars ask Aria a question and we hear the truth in her monologue, like her inner thoughts, but then she says a lie to the liars. It would also show us like this is probably what Alison did as well, so we know like they've been lying to us this whole time. Aria was known to be the best liar in the group, so it's really just showing like she was never loyal to them the whole time. She was just saying whatever she could to make it seem like she was on their side, knowing whole time she was a double agent. And you know, everything happens with the liars, and the episode would end with her being behind bars, similar to the way Mona was locked up at the end of the season 2 finale. And the series would end very similarly to how season 2 ended with Mona, except instead of being locked up in a sanitarium, Aria would be locked away in jail. Like, we would see the jail cell close on her. But guys, I had so much fun coming up with this theory. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it as well. I like the idea of keeping the motives very vague here because it just adds to how haunting the betrayal really and truly is. And let me know what you guys think. What you think would have been a good motive for Allie and Allison to team up together and do this to the liars. Also, if you enjoyed this video, you would love the one up on the screen, so go ahead and check it out. Subscribe too if you haven't already.